Well, what about those players who've lit up the Premier League this season? Luis Suarez leading the way, the top scorer, 31 goals, the first Liverpool player to 30 or more since Ian Rush in 1987. And until the final day, he had the most assists in the Premier League as well. Let's just take you through those statistics. Steven Gerrard overtook him on the final day with, he's at 13 this season. Hazard and Nasri both created 92 chances, the most passes and the most touches. Yaya Toure of Manchester City, the most tackles and interceptions. Millet Jedinak and clean sheets, Cech and Szczesny, both with 16 apiece. Gary Neville, why did Luis Suarez thrill you so much this season?
He got to a level that I didn't think he was capable of when I first saw him 2 years ago. I thought that at that time his game lacked maturity and decision-making, but this year everything's come together at once. His appreciation of his teammates is so much better. His finishing is absolutely fantastic. What impresses me most is his attitude towards the game is impeccable. You talk about modern-day football players get a lot of criticism for the fact that they don't fight, they don't get... Every time you see him play on a football pitch, it looks like his life depends upon it. I have to say, you match that with talent that he has, and you've got an incredible player.
He's someone you would always want on your side, Graeme.
Yeah, he's a warrior. I think he's one of those players that polarises opinions. I think if he's with you, he's a star. I think to work with him, he'd be as good as it gets, because I think he'd be bang at it every day in training. But if you were playing against him, some of the stuff he still, occasionally, he has eliminated a lot of it out of his game, would frustrate the life out of you. When I was at the Chelsea or Liverpool-Chelsea game, and that day, he seemed more intent on trying to get people in trouble than get on with the job of scoring goals. And I think, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think there will be people sniffing around him this summer. I think, and it'll be very hard for the boy himself if Real Madrid or Barcelona, and I think more likely Real Madrid, came knocking. You know, Latin, Spanish-speaking, Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world. It'd be very hard for him himself to turn it down. But I hope as a Liverpool supporter, they don't come sniffing.
How important?
Because Liverpool without him, you imagine Liverpool without him this year, they ain't in the Champions League next year.
Well, Jamie, how would you answer that, Liverpool without Suarez?
I think they'd have a fight on to reach the top four next season without Luis Suarez. You look at the effect Gareth Bale had on Spurs, and it sounds great. You bring in 6, 7 players, spend all this money, strengthen the team in other areas. But when you've got a player like that, you build a team around that. And I think that's what Brendan Rodgers has done. If you remember the first act he did, Brendan Rodgers, as soon as he come in, he got rid of Andy Carroll and made him the focal point of a different type of football, if you like, than what was playing just slightly previously because of Andy Carroll was in the team. You built the team around him. And I think a lot of his performance is down to the player, of course it is. But the fact that Brendan Rodgers did that, built the team around Luis Suarez. So it reminds me when we had Fernando Torres, that team is built around him. Steven Gerrard playing balls through, Xabi Alonso. You look at Torres now gone somewhere else. It doesn't always work when you move on. That whole team is set up for him. I think he's fantastically suited to the Premier League, the way the game is played. Spanish a bit more slower. Who knows if he'd settle in? I'm sure he would. He's a world-class player. But if I was Liverpool, they've got him to sign a contract around Christmas, January time. So he's 4 or 5 years. Who knows what the buyout clause is? But I think at the moment, I think the season he's had, he's very happy at Liverpool. He's got Champions League football. He's talked about that a lot. He's mentioned that a lot. That's what he wants to do. He wants to play in it. But Luis Suarez shouldn't just be playing in the Champions League. He should be winning it. Now, I'm not saying Liverpool are going to win it next year, but that's the level of player that we're talking about. Now, if Liverpool next season, I'd expect them to stay and not challenging for the league again, and not getting Champions League, or not even getting to knockout rounds of Champions League, I think they may have a problem.
I think not being in the Champions League is always a great excuse for players to leave a football club. There's no excuse now for him to leave. You know,
But is that the key, as Jamie says, they have to match his ambition almost?
Well, they have this year. I mean, they've gone to the last week for the title. They've got into the Champions League. I'm sure they've paid him extremely good wages. So they've stood by him. I mean, they've done him a lot of favours as well. I mean, if you go through his career, he's had a lot of problems at Liverpool. You know, a lot of indiscretions. But as the guys say, he's an incredible talent. As good as he is for Liverpool, Liverpool's been good for him. I think you should always remember that. I don't think there's that loyalty in football, unfortunately, sometimes. But as a player, considering he's missed the start of the season, he doesn't take penalties, he has been absolutely magnificent this year. Make no mistake about it, I can't think of a single player that's performed like that in a team and just taken his team to that next level that like he has. He has been incredible.